pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. We have an acknowledgement of the quorum, so would like to open up the floor to public comments. Vicky.
My name is Vicki Seneth. I live at 6118 Indiana Drive. I have a question. I saw on the agenda that the rec park board is to nominate Terry Lynn Ross for recommendation for the seat, the vacant seat. So I'm asking, exactly how did you come to this nomination of this person? What was the process and procedure that you used?
We checked into the paperwork that had been filled out by the volunteers and took a look at the list of names. We were asked by the township supervisors at the last meeting to make a recommendation, and that's what we're here to do tonight. So nothing has been decided. All we're doing is making a nomination. We're putting, anybody can be nominated at tonight's meeting. But the nomination that had been looked at would be Terry Lynn Ross.
So my next question is, so you are gonna have discussion then, if other board members want to nominate someone else, that can be done tonight?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And also, my question is, if the board of supervisors, appointed an alternate, after they, looked at all the qualifications of the person, why is that person not qualified enough for you?
It's not that the person is not qualified enough. It's, we were asked by the Board of Supervisors to make a recommendation. And we looked at Terry Lynn's qualifications with her background in the military, with her way of doing business as far as being very, very succinct in how she does things. And we felt that she would be the best candidate for the position. We checked with the Board of Supervisors beforehand and asked the chair if it was a requirement that we could go with the alternate, and we were told no.
So when you say we, exactly who is we? If you didn't talk about it in public, that, with the Sunshine Act, I know
We did not talk as a group. We did not.
Who's we?
So we are permitted to send out an email blast as long as we do not discuss it as a group. So an email blast went out to the 4 remaining board members and asked to consider that Terry Lynn be the nominee for it. And that's what we're here to discuss tonight, is just to ask for them to consider that nomination. And that if they had any other nominations, we would discuss them here tonight.
Can you please be more precise in your, like, I like the way you answered that. Can you be more precise in what you're saying? Yeah, it was not very clear.
Well, I'm not quite sure what wasn't clear to you, Renata.
Like, who did it go from, who received it, etc.
So I went in and requested a list of the people who filled out paperwork for volunteers. I saw Terry Lynn's name on the list. I've worked with Terry Lynn before, and I felt that she would be a good candidate for the position. So as chair, I am allowed to send out an email to the board members so long as we do not do a group return on that. I just sent that out and asked them to consider this for tonight's meeting. Very simple.
Can I make a comment?
Sure.
I would just like to go on the record as saying that I will accept anybody on the board as long as they are a productive member and they come to the board meaning to do business.
Yeah, Paul King, 6829 Cannery Road. There seems to be some confusion about the applications you looked at. On an email you sent to Barb and Tim, which was provided to the board, it says that Ms. Ross was one of the original who had applied for the rec park board, when she was not. she was one of the originals that applied for the alternate position.
That was the paperwork I saw, Paul, that's all I can tell you.
Well, I have that paperwork and it's not what you saw, and unless the paperwork was altered in some way.
I don't think so. I mean, I just
Well,
came
here it
in,
is.
well, I came in and requested a list of the paperwork that was submitted for volunteers.
Again, Ms. Ross, I'm sure would be, willing and able to work on the board, but the assertion that she had originally submitted an application for volunteerism for that position is not correct.
She submitted paperwork before she got nominated for the water committee, Paul, because that was discussed at the public meeting.
I
So
have it
that-
right here.
she
It's not
submitted a
correct
volun-
that she submitted
okay.
one for the rec park board.
Okay.
So, so that's my point. With the apparent confusion over what information is being given to the chair and the information that I've had for months, it's not the same. And I would simply, and then no vote taken last month and a presumption that some type of recommendation was being made. You're a young board, you're just getting started. You had a very quick resignation. And it seems like there's enough confusion that I would ask you tonight not to make a recommendation. That since the applications are still fresh, that the Board of Supervisors received and ratings were made on those individuals, I think at this juncture, this vacancy, the Board of Supervisors should be left to make that decision, since the applications are only months old and there's confusion over the information that the chairman and other people were given and the process in which it was given. So I just ask that you consider not making a recommendation at all. And then I just have a suggestion for you to kind of clarify how you would make a recommendation. Some type of form or procedure where you could say, the Rec Park Board on our meeting of July 2nd, 2024, makes the following recommendations to the Board of Supervisors to be considered at their next meeting. Some type of paperwork can be consistent from recommendation to recommendation, because that's basically what you do. So I would ask that you consider that as well. Thank you.
Meg?
Meg Powell, 1200 Porters. I fully support Terry Lynn as I think she would make an excellent board member for you. I am concerned about Ms. Seneff being on the board. She is an alternate, she's already got that position. Let's let Terry Lynn have an opportunity. And also, I'm concerned because, and I'm not trying to do a character assassination the way Paul King did against all of the other people who came up, but Ms. Seneff has been very negatively outspoken against a lot of things happening in the park, and also one of the big things that she believes to be a plus is the Codorus blast, and my understanding is that the Codorus blast had some significant problems because of her involvement. So that is just my 2 cents. Thank you.
May I, since you spoke about me, may I rebut what she said, please? First of all,
Keep it short.
I have not had any negative feedback as far as the park. I don't even know what she was talking about. I had signed up originally, I've been asking for years to have a rec park board so that we could get the park up and running and get things the way they need to be for our community. Secondly, as far as the Fedora Splash goes, I did the Fedora Splash for 10 years. We had a 30-person board that I helped co-chair. We had 30 people on our board. We ran a program that brought in thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars of money to the state park. I don't know what Meg is talking about as far as problems. We had a phenomenal board. We worked with community businesses. We have people, and so does Mr. Roybal, come up to us all the time begging us to go back to being on the board of the Blast, because the Blast has turned to nothing since we pulled away. We had a standard, a moral standard of how to spend the monies. I was in charge of soliciting funds. We did that. A group came in, wanted to do something different with the funds. You cannot solicit funds and then spend them on something else. In Pennsylvania, that is theft by deception. I have a business, I'm a born again believer, so I have morals. So I stepped down because I told the park manager I would not be a part of going to the hospital and getting $10,000, going to the merchandiser, getting $15,000 monies from them, that we were putting in a handicap playground for children. This group wanted to buy antique plates from Marianne Furnace, which would do nothing for the community. So I stepped down because I didn't want to be involved in something that was illegal, and that was illegal. So that's why I resigned, and Mr. Roybal did the same thing for our own reputation, so that we weren't involved in anything wrong. So you can talk, I can give you all the vendors that I set up, I can give you affidavits from all of them talking about what we did for that fest and the money they made because of us. So I'm sorry, but Ms. Powell is not speaking truths, and nothing against her. It's hearsay. She wasn't even there. She wasn't even in our community when we were running the Blast. She didn't even live here. So I'm sorry, that's gossip and that's not factual.
And may I respond since my name was mentioned also?
As long as you keep it short, you got 1 minute,
Thank you.
since you've already spoken.
I did not excoriate anyone when I talked. I asked the Board of Supervisors to have an executive session several times to discuss the volunteers, the people who volunteered. They were told on those occasions that if they did not grant the executive session, I would have no choice but to mention those items in a public meeting, and that's how it worked. So, that information was known by everybody, and none of it, since I said it, has been challenged. Thank
Can I
you.
reclaim the rest of my time?
I think at this point, I think it's time to move on from this topic.
Okay,
So
I would like to
if there
reclaim
is
the
a
rest of
different
my time,
topic,
Tara.
if there is a different topic, then we will move on to a different topic. So if you have a different topic, Meg, you may bring up a different topic, but we're gonna table the topic.
You routinely cut me short on all kinds of things. I would like the balance of my 3 minutes.
We're moving on from that topic. So if there is a different topic you would like to bring up, then we'll be more than happy to entertain that. Renan, if you have something very short to
I
bring
don't
up.
get full 3 minutes.
So if you have something, but you did already have an opportunity to speak, so
No, then I
you
was
have,
commenting on it.
you have 1 minute and to bring up.
Hold on, I have not spoken, I'm raising my hand, I've not spoken. This is absolutely outrageous, nor can you respectfully control what it is that we talk about.
Exactly.
That is absolutely against the spirit of this whole thing. So I would like you to clarify that that's not what you're doing, and then give me my 3 minutes, please.
We do have the option, if there is, and I reread the laws today, because I was afraid this was going to come up tonight. And if there is a group having the same topic, we can have one person represent that topic and then move on. That is in the laws, that is written in the laws, and I did check them today.
Yeah, but this isn't a group.
So this
There
is
is-
a group.
the-
This
so-
is the
Meg
same-
Powell is
it
not a
the
group
same- it's
with
the
any
same
other person.
topic.
Which is the group? What group are you referring to?
This
You're
is
not
the same-
recognized and you're talking over him.
So-
And that's what you want don't want to happen, but yet you do it.
Did it happen at the last township meeting? Mr. Johnstonball, did
Did
it
I
happen?
talk over anybody?
Oh, yes, sir, you did.
I
So,
did not.
So,
moving on,
I
if
still have
there
my
is
hand up.
another topic, Renan, if you have a short topic you would like to bring up.
No, I would like to make a comment during the public session.
You may
Thank
make a comment,
Thank you.
as long as it is not about the topic of the alternate or the nomination.
Then call the police.
So, if that is what the topic is, then we will move on.
I have a comment regarding, I have two comments actually. One comment is regarding what happened at the last township meeting. And it is interesting that you have made a clarification about what exactly occurred with communications here. You sent an email, Tara, sent an email to this committee. And it is my understanding from what you have said that then there was no reply, there was no discussion about it. Is that
That is
correct? Great. It was presented to the Board of Supervisors and to the community as a whole at the last board meeting that there was a recommendation from this board to nominate a specific person. Was that the intention or your intention in misrepresenting, you sending an email to a group as essentially meaning that this board had met and had convened and had discussed and had agreed on who the nominee
This
should be?
board did not meet and this board did not convene.
Well,
to
was it
discuss
represented
any
that way
nomination.
was it a mistake in the
At last-
agenda? At the last
this-
Board of
at this-
Supervisors meeting?
We submitted a list of recommendations,
Uh-huh.
and we asked that they consider some of those recommendations. We had a list.
And one of those recommendations was simply an email that you had sent with no further discussion?
No, that was just a list of recommendations.
It sounds like a pretty clear violation of both the spirit and the law of the Sunshine Act to have lied to the Board of Supervisors and told
Okay,
them,
we're moving on. We're moving
have I
on.
run out of time?
We are moving on.
So you are censoring me
is there-
based on the fact that you don't like what I'm saying because I am bringing to light a problem.
No, we are moving on because I said that we were going to change it to a different topic, so we are moving on.
And
Yes, sir.
accidentally, that's the
I am
topic that you don't
formally
like.
recognizing the gentleman in the back of the room. Thank you.
Outrageous.
Thank you. Tom Fennernes, 3840 Sloversburg Drive in York. I'm here representing the Cadorus chapter of Trout Unlimited. We are a local chapter of a national conservation-based organization. We've been working here in the area since about 1988. We have about 300 members. When you guys got the parkland back here, we were kind of instrumental in that. We worked really closely with Tim, so he's very familiar with our work. The reason I'm here tonight is one thing that we do, or have done, is we maintained a couple of signboards up along the creek. One was downstream of Brown Road, kind of where the road and the railroad track and the creek kind of come together. The other one was up past the sawmill. Over time, the weather and everything has pretty much claimed those signs, and we would like to replace them. Since the area above the sawmill is now posted, there's a lot less traffic up there, so we would like to find a new location for our second sign. And we were hoping that we could put it down here by the two bridges. We would be looking at, if we go down there, take a left at the fire hall, go across the bridges, and obviously on the left side, somewhere between the bridges and the railroad track. We were down there picking out a spot. We picked something that is far enough off the road that it won't interfere with snow plowing or a little bit of mowing that goes on down there. Just to give you some idea of what we have in mind, it would just be a couple of, 4x4 posts, that high or so. Rather than using wood and letting, the weather take care of it, we're gonna be using 12-inch wide composite deck boards. We're just gonna slide those in so that if we need to replace them, we can replace them and we don't have to tolerate them to get unsightly. We are going to use a color, they're not gonna be white or anything, they're not gonna stick out, they're not gonna ruin the eyesore or anything like that. Our guys are out here all the time, we'll take care of any maintenance, if any vines start crawling up them or the weeds growing up around them and stuff like that, we'll take care of that. It's gonna be a scout project, the local troop here is gonna actually be doing construction. They're just providing the design and materials. And that's about all I can think of. We're just looking for permission, approval, whatever you do.
Could we request that you submit that in writing, so then we can take it to the Board of Supervisors at a public meeting? We are strictly an advisory board, so
Okay.
we can't make any decisions ourselves, we have to present them to the Board of Supervisors. So if you could get us something in writing, that we could then vote on and submit to the Board of Supervisors, that would be great.
Is there an email on the website like that? Or where-
If you send it into the township municipal website, then, they will in turn filter it down to us.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Can I say something?
You may.
The procedure that Tara just mentioned is the same procedure that we must go through in order to fill a vacancy on the rec board. We make our recommendation and vote on it, and it goes to the board. The board doesn't like it, they can vote it down, send it back to us, or do whatever they want. So we are possibly not making a final decision tonight, depending on what happened, because the board is the ultimate, has the ultimate say in this situation.
So, and to further clarify your position, Renan, we were asked to come up with a list of candidates. I sent the first email out to our board members, asked for possible candidates. Did not get anything back other than one name. So, that name was the one that was submitted to the Board of Supervisors at the first meeting. We were then asked again to submit something more formal at this next meeting, which is why we're meeting tonight instead of on our normal night. We were asked by the Board of Supervisors to do a formal submission for the next township meeting, and that's why this meeting is taking place tonight, so we can formalize that submission. And if there are names that go on there, we can have a list of names, but so far, in the email that went out, in the discussion we had at the last meeting, one name surfaced up at the top.
I was there at the Board of Supervisors meeting, so I saw what happened.
I would like to clarify as well, just like Sandy said, if, whether it's the alternate or another person that's chosen, as long as, we're working together, I don't have an issue with it. I've known Vicky for a long time, don't have an issue with Vicky being nominated. I'm open to whatever. I would like to see us get some things done. It just feels like we're kind of stuck with this murky stuff, and I would like to move past it and be able to make some progress.
I'd just like to say something to hold John accountable. Back when this board was formed, a couple weeks later, he came to the shop, come up and seen me in my shop. And he told us he was gonna resign because she was way more qualified than him and couldn't believe she wasn't picked. So, I don't know what happened, that never happened. I didn't want you to resign. They made their decision, but that's what you said. So I don't know if you had any input in your email or how you communicated this. But she's way more qualified than you, and I'm not bragging on her, you said it. So, I don't know if you have any input, you don't have to tell me, but think about it. You remember that?
Yes, I remember that.
Okay.
And
I'm just holding you accountable to what you said. I mean,
I'm not gonna lie about that, okay? But
So what
at
changed?
this point, I feel Vicky is best used as an alternate, that we can give her something to do, like corporate funding, go out and get corporate funding, and she can still be involved with this board.
well, the common sense, somebody mentioned common sense here last week and said it wasn't much going around. But the common sense thing is for the alderman to move up. I mean, just think about it. I mean,
That's not our decision to make. That is the Board of Supervisors' decision to make.
but you got common sense, don't you?
We
No.
make a submission and that's it.
But that's not the submission you're making. That's not the
And
submission you're
that's
making.
not that's not a submission we have to make, we're not in your out of order, so,
I mean.
You're lying directly to his face.
I'm not lying directly to you.
You are hiding behind the fact that. Unbelievable.
Well, they've asked us specifically to just make a submission, when we can do a list of names, we don't have to do just one.
So you can't say no?
So, at this point, this is why we're meeting tonight, they asked us to come up with a submission or a list of submissions for them for their next board meeting.
Are we still in public comment, or have we moved to approval of June minutes?
I'm
Are
not
there-
sure.
Are there any other comments? We could. Mhm. Do you wanna go into executive session right now?
I'm good with that.
Okay, we're gonna go into executive session.
Is it on the agenda?
It is not.
Ms. Borlaug.
Ask Barb if it is okay for us to go into
Are we
executive
allowed
session.
to do that, Paul?
That's, I'm gonna ask,
Because
we'll ask Barb.
we all drove
And
here.
if not,
right?
we won't. If not, we will not. Like you said, Paul, we are a young board, so we're still learning the ropes.
Right.
So are we permitted to do that without having that
It
on the
doesn't
agenda?
fall under an executive session issue.
Okay, all right, then we will not go into executive session. Are there any more public comments before we move on? Okay, then I call for the approval of the June minutes, which the board has in front of them. I would like to make a motion that the.
Oh, I would like to make a correction. During the meeting, I referred to the JMT Enterprise as the JDT Enterprise under old
Oh.
business. It was my fault.
Should be JMT.
Yeah, JMT.
Is that the only thing that you noticed, John?
Yeah, and I think it was somewhere else that we were going to ask them about placing signs.
Where to put our rule signs?
Yeah, here it is. Item C, new rules and regulations, 1, 2, 3, third bullet down, or second bullet down, asking JDT, but it should be JMT, please.
Given those two corrections, any others, Cindy, did you see anything that you have, Gloria? Okay. So given those two corrections, I make a motion that we approve the minutes once those corrections are made. Do I hear a second? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. All right, under old business, draft bylaws. As we discussed at last month's meeting, I had provided the board copies of some of the other advisory boards bylaws that I came across. I did go through those and come up with a list of bylaws that I thought reflected where we were as a board. I will send these out to the board members and would request that you take a look at these and go through, and at our next meeting, we'll finalize some bylaws that we can then submit to the Board of Supervisors. Okay? So, and I do have a copy here if anybody would like to take a look. Okay, so our next topic, at our last meeting, we approved the idea of going with the stations for, dog bags. So I wanted to discuss that.
You approved it?
We discussed it. You presented your thing and we approved discussing it at this meeting and coming up with a vote. So that's what we're gonna be
She
doing
was,
today.
may I s- she never finished her presentation.
Correct, because we're limited to 3 minutes, as all the public comment is. But we did get the hard copies of the stations, and, would like to discuss some final thoughts on that, and maybe vote on submitting a recommendation to the Board of Supervisors on which ones to use. Now, we had the possibility of, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 different stations that were submitted as part of the presentation that was given last. There was a lot of discussion about whether or not to use the ones with the trash cans and who was gonna be in charge of emptying the trash cans, and I think, the comments were made that maybe we didn't need to use the ones with the trash cans, that maybe folks would drop them off into the regular trash cans. Did I read that correctly?
From me, you did, that's the way I would like to go.
So not ones without the receptacles underneath. So, yeah, it would be less intensive for someone to have to go in and empty them all the time. So that leaves 2 possibilities then, and that is the station that was $129, and then there were 2 other stations. One was $19, which is strictly the bags. We would have to get the poles and everything to put in for those. And the other one was also strictly the receptacle for the bags. And we'd have to get a pole for that as well. The $129 one seems like it might be prohibitively expensive. We would have less that we would be able to put in. That was this one.
Yeah.
So I would recommend that the board look at the 2, the one for 19 and the one for 59. Now, the one for 59, my only concern with that one, in reading over the nomenclature on it, is that it glows in the dark. And given the fact that the park is technically closed at dusk, do we want something that's gonna draw attention to possible kids up there in the dark?
My vote was for the 129 one, and because I saw about the glow in the dark thing.
Yeah. Yeah,
That was the one I really went for.
the 129? Mm-hmm.
Because it includes the pole.
Okay.
That would make sense.
So that's the one you would recommend as well, Cindy? John?
I would go with that.
Okay, well, then I would like to put forth a motion that we recommend to the Board of Supervisors that, we reach out to the 501c3 and request purchase of the dog waste station. And it comes with 400 bags. So, is there a second?
I second.
Okay, all in favor?
Question in the audience?
Quick question, actually 2 questions.
Okay.
Are there that many dogs up there that you need 6 of those?
Well, we didn't say we were gonna buy 6.
Okay, well, you stated on there that you were talking about 6.
No, it comes with 400 bags in
I
the,
know you said what they come with, but you said you were talking about putting up 6 stations?
She misspoke, I think.
There were 6 stations to choose from.
yeah, 6
Yeah.
different,
Six to
6
choose from?
different
We're
ways,
not-
yeah, 6
okay.
different
We're not
options that
putting
were
up six
presented to
Okay,
us.
and I was just wondering how many dogs go up there,
Yeah,
then
no, no,
you
no,
need
no.
6 of those.
No, I'm sorry, no, this was 6 different waste receptacles
Okay.
that we could choose from, so that's what
Okay.
we're choosing from, is the 6 different receptacles. Renan?
Is the nonprofit going to maintain this and take care of the waste, or how is that gonna happen?
No.
Well, since there won't be any receptacles in there, we're gonna have to rely on people to do their duty and put them in the trash cans that are around the park. There are several trash receptacles at the park, and they will need to go in one of those.
Who will be buying the bags then? Is like after the 400, do we just go back to the nonprofit? Is that what you're planning to do to get the bags restocked?
That wasn't discussed.
No, that hasn't been discussed. So we figured we'd get the approval to get them in first, and then we would table that for another meeting on how to move forward with that.
Because if you're installing those, you know that you're gonna have an expense with it. So shouldn't you decide how you're gonna pay for that future expense, or work with the nonprofit that they commit, say, yes, we will make sure that we sustain that before we go and spend the money from the nonprofit to put the things in, when we know it's gonna be in a future incurrence of an expense. It's one thing if you're just putting a fence up or something, but this is something that if people really do use it and things, we will have an expense at some
I'll take
point.
it back to.
The nonprofit. Thank you.
Mhm.
What was that?
Sandy said she would take it back to the nonprofit, that discussion about the follow-on bags.
I volunteer to contribute money, and
And I did do research on the bags themselves, and it's not a huge expense to have those bags, ordered from like Amazon or something, so.
Well, I think the first thing we need to do is see how many people are gonna use it.
Right. I was
Exactly.
just curious to what, she didn't say what the expense, like, what, she said the cost of the actual dispenser, but how much are the bags too, just so you know?
Well, here's like a 200 count, a 10 pack of 200 count is $46, so that's
Okay.
2,000 bags.
Yeah.
So they're
Well,
pretty
and it's
cheap.
minimal, that's was, no one said how much, you know how
Right.
some stuff in this commercial business can be extremely expensive.
Yeah, we're looking at that for long term, but at this point, we just wanted to submit the proposal that we got for the receptacles for the supervisors. Okay, so motion carries for the, I'm sorry, I go back to making the motion for the $129 receptacles. And John, you seconded the motion, so all in favor? Aye. Okay, aye, motion carries. And Sandy, could you find out how many receptacles the nonprofit is looking to put in,
Mhm.
or would be looking to put in?
It was in the proposal.
I think it was dependent on the cost, was it not?
The 129, it said 3 to 4.
All right, we will submit that to the supervisors at their next meeting.
And is that the glow in the dark or the non-glow in the dark one?
It's the yeah, that's the non-glow. Okay, since there was some lively discussion about the recommendation for the vacancy on the Park and Rec Board, I would say say we should table this for this point and have a discussion with the Board of Supervisors, to let them know that we are looking for guidance.
I would agree with that 110%.
What do you think, Laura?
Yeah, I think either we table it or, I mean, I don't have any issue with nominating more than one name and passing that on to the board.
So we certainly can do
Yeah.
that. So which would you prefer?
I would be fine with adding Vicky since she's the alternate and then let it up to the board to make the decision.
Sandy?
I agree, the board's gonna make the decision they're gonna make anyway, so.
John, would you have an issue with that?
No.
Okay. All right, I will open up for nominations then for the vacancies, the recommendations for us to put forward.
Well, I'll nominate Vicky.
Okay. Okay,
I'd like to nominate Terry Lynn Ross.
okay. Any other thoughts, nominations?
You were saying that you were working off of a list. Were there other people on the list?
Dan Wilmot was one.
Dan,
I had thought maybe we should mention his name. I don't know if he's been.
He's certainly very
appointed for any- Yeah,
qualified.
I don't know if he's been appointed for anything else or not, but
Yeah, I'm
think
not
he would
sure
be
if he was
someone-
still interested, I had heard
I'm
some.
gonna nominate him.
Okay. We can see if he's still interested, I had heard some scuttlebutt back and forth, that he was, he wasn't, so I'm not sure where that stands. Okay, any others? Any other thoughts? Okay, so we will submit 3 names as recommendations from the Park and Rec Board for the vacancy. We'll recommend Vicky Seneff, Terry Lynn Ross, and Dan Wilmot.
Now, they all have their volunteer paperwork in, right?
That is my understanding.
You have yours in, Vicky,
And Terry Lynn has hers.
okay? And Terry Lynn Ross has hers.
And
Okay,
Dan had his name too.
so
And so,
there was something about Terry Lynn Ross wasn't volunteering for the rec board. Is that need to be corrected then, right? No? You did have the rec board?
she originally did request to be on the rec board.
Yeah, and I remember the board, or Matt Bollinger wanted her to be on the water committee.
Correct.
Okay, and she refused that. Okay. I am making a motion to close the nomination.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, those are the 3 names we will submit at the next public meeting. Okay, on the 19th of June, John and I met with a gentleman by the name of Andy Mears. It was a very productive session on possibilities for us to go with setting up a master plan. And he then recommended that we speak with the representative from Spring Grove Park and Rec Association, and we did that yesterday. John and I are still working on our notes for that. We'll have more to follow on that session. But the ideas that they gave us multiple ideas on how we can move forward with getting a master plan together. So, once we digest the information that we've got, we'll have more information to follow for the board on that. Okay.
I'd like,
Question?
Very short, because it's not public comment anymore, so keep it short. And I
Yeah,
guess we
Terry,
certainly,
I am the only person who you remind every single time I put my hand up.
no, I did with Renan as well.
Oh.
I told him to keep it very short, so you are not the only person.
can you please speak to timeline of, and whether you intend to do a grant for, doing the cost of the master plan?
That is not something that we have decided upon which path we are going to take yet. We need to sit down and digest the information that we received yesterday from the meeting that we had with Spring Grove Park and Rec, and digest that information, and then once we have put together our notes, we'll be able to discuss that in a little bit more detail. But right now, we just had the meeting yesterday, so we don't have a path forward at this point. It all depends on which way we go as far as developing our master plan. There are several types of master plans, and so we were given several options.
Several types of, can you explain more about several types
I,
of
yeah,
master plan?
okay. The most time lengthy master plan is with the DNCR, which can take 8 months to a year just to get it approved. Andy Mears didn't suggest, but he gave us another way, which is for the township to get money together to do our own master plan that we could do much faster. We could just go right out and hire a company like Andy Mears. There's other companies out there, and we get 3 bids on the same master plan, on the exact same thing as to what it would cost. So, the only differences are, how fast do you want to do this? Personally, I'm leaning toward the DNCR because they have funded many, many, many things around the area, other parks in other townships. But that doesn't mean I can't be influenced for something else. And the young lady we worked with yesterday we talked to yesterday, has great connections with the DNCR and has written numerous master plans. So, do you have any other questions, Meg?
Oh, yes, I have quite a few. So Kate King, I think, is the person that you met with yesterday?
Yes.
She's Spring Grove rep. So, actually, the 501c3 has gone through much of the same process that you all have gone through. If you go with the DCNR grant, you're talking about not having the way the period of the grant submission is, and then when that money gets awarded, and then when that work begins, that pushes having the master plan as a final product to begin the next set of grant applications. That pushes that out to 2027.
Correct.
So, and then the alternate route that you were talking about having the master plan done and paid for, possibly with the help of the 501c3 through certain fundraising efforts that we've talked about, and are recommended by our fundraising person. That, and going with Andy Mears or some other person, I'm unclear whether it would really take 3, but if we were to assist with the cost of having that master plan done, that would leapfrog us 2 years in the whole process, because we would possibly be able to have that master site plan done to start making applications in next year's grant cycle. So that would be in 2025 versus 2027. It literally leapfrogs us 2 years. So, did you get a cost estimate from Andy Mears on what that kind of, site plan would cost?
For the smaller version, this would not be a master plan, this would be a scaled down plan.
Okay,
And so he said you're, on average, you're looking between 25 and up, 25,000 and up.
so if the 501c3 were able to, work and come up with a plan for with naming rights for certain fields and this sort of thing, and if the 501 were able to raise that money, would you consider that?
At this point, we're wide open. The recommendation was made with going with DCNR because of the amount of money that you can get through them. Whereas it's a little bit more difficult with some of the smaller grants. And then they gave us some other options for, getting money. The idea is to, because I know it's a sensitive subject with the township, is to defray the costs to the township as much as possible. We have been saying from day one, this is not gonna happen overnight, that this is going to be a long-term plan. So, at this point, we're not looking to rush into anything and only to have to go back and revisit it later. We're trying to do it right from the start. And that's why I say, we're not prepared at this point to make any decisions on anything at this point. It's just gathering the information, bringing it together, and then working up an idea that, you know, which path would be the most advantageous for our Park and Rec board to go.
So, have you, resurfaced the original master plan that was done when the first group got together and started designing the park? Because they had did a master plan back then, and I was just curious if you ever resurfaced that just to see what all their future plans were that was already done.
I know it was talked about, I don't know if anything was ever done with it.
Because they should
And
have
I've never
here,
seen one.
because that was a board appoint, the board of supervisors appointed that park board just like you.
Mm.
So, that's something that you already have paid for and had did all that legwork instead of starting over from scratch. I mean, we already have infrastructure here.
Mhm.
So, maybe you can pull that and it
We
would
can
save
replace
you. Mhm.
Absolutely.
And I thought we discussed that at the meeting that you had with Megan, the master plan, that there was an original master plan.
Actually, what you have is comprehensive plan that
I was gonna
done
say, I
in
didn't think it was a
2005.
master plan, yeah.
It is.
This was something different.
Yeah,
So
I thought it was
does that comprehensive plan include this park?
It does not, it's not a site plan for this park, no. I don't know if Vicky Seneff knows of something different than what I'm referring to. What I'm referring to is a comprehensive plan that was done in 2005.
When this park was originally started, when, the original board, there was nothing here. So they did all this and they had a plan and a future plan,
Misunderstanding. We can check it. We can check with the township office and see what
Bruce
they can.
Bruce Jones Company, he did his construction company, cause they were the ones that worked on this. So,
Was she a certified planner?
he had a construction company, he
But
did,
he-
so he was on the board, through the board of supervisors. And their engineers from his company, he donated a lot of engineer time from his company to get this all started for the community. So what I'm saying is that's history
We'll check.
that you probably don't know about
We'll
that you
check.
did.
We'll check into it and see what the township office has.
Any kind of site plan from 2005 is gonna have to be significantly reviewed because of ADA changes and all these.
Of
other-
course, of course. And that's gonna be with any master plan. We were warned about that as well, that it's not gonna be written in stone. It'll be a growing document.
Another concern with a master plan is including the wooded lots
Mhm.
that we as a community have to decide, are we gonna put that in the master plan for future development. And if we are putting it in the master plan, then the development plan increases in price for them to make a plan for the wooded lots. And they suggested all kinds of things. Some parts be trailed, some parts ball field, since the softball girls are kind of left out or whatever, but those are the things that a master plan, including the wooded area, would look at. And that, if we do that, it's going to cost increased money for the master plan.
So just so I'm clear that we're talking about the same thing. Are we talking about an entire master plan, or are we talking about the scaled down version?
No, we're looking at either or. We are trying to decide which is the best path for this park and board to go with. So at this point, as I said, we're just gathering information. We're putting it together so we can make an intelligent decision on what would be our recommendation. Do we want to go down with the scaled version, or do we want to come up with a true master plan and try to cover it all? And there are pros and cons to both. You know, we were given a lot of pros and
Well,
cons to both.
I thought we already had the discussion that the better plan would be to go with, I guess, the scaled down version for this park, because this is where you're gonna see the most effort. Where the
Well-
residents are gonna see the most effort.
Well, we didn't make any decision on what we were gonna use. I mean, we talked about different options, but we're gathering information, we're having these meetings with people who do these to try to come up with what the best plan would be. But no decisions have been made in one way or the other on.
And the
which way
community
to
and the
go.
board can have their say. That's one of the processes in these master plans, to have community
Meet with the
meeting, public meeting,
Mhm.
as to what they want. But we've been warned that not everything that everybody wants is going to be in that master plan, because it just may not fit the territory or the need of the community.
So is it possible to do the mini, site plan for just this local community park? And at the same time, plan on doing a grant submission in 2025 for the larger picture? What, you're saying you'd have to decide either or, you could do both.
Well,
You could
we've been recommended to go not do that, only because then as the master plan comes, we may be redoing things that we had in the mini plan. And rather than have to spend more money to fix what was not done the first time, the recommendation from both Andy Mears and from the Kate that we talked to at Spring Grove Park and Rec was to try to put as much into that plan from the get-go, from the start.
Okay, well, and also, you mentioned that Kate King has written master plans. After we met with her, she made a point of, in her next email, saying that even, and, because I know that, there's a possibility that the township, and whether or not you decide to recommend this, but, you know, that she's trying to get us to join that group. Even if we were eventually to join that group, she made a point of telling me that she would not do the master site plan. We would need to, the township would need to have that done anyway. So she's not up for doing that. At least that's what she told us.
Okay, that was a different discussion than what we had with her, and that's the concern with, you know, having these separate meetings. If we have these separate meetings without all being at the table, then there's gonna be some confusion that comes up, because that was a very different meeting than what we had.
Yeah, that was very different.
So,
Okay, that's fine, I'll forward you the email where she said it, but, yeah. Well, if you do go ahead and, meet with them some more, would you consider inviting the 501c3 to join you?
That would be something we'd have to discuss offline because we need to set up rules of the road for areas of responsibility. I firmly believe that it's the Park and Rec Board's responsibility to come up with the master plan, for the park.
Yeah.
But that would certainly be something that we could discuss.
Yes, and always being transparent as to what's in it.
Question, so with the master plan, can it be created in a way that it's done in steps? So in other words, it would be like a smaller version first, knowing that this is what we're gonna eventually work towards?
Well, what they recommended is having the entire plan done, but yes, it would be done in steps.
Okay.
But they recommend having
So you know the full scope of
or
what's
you
gonna
know,
happen?
exactly, because if you do it piecemeal, the concern is that when you start adding things
You have to
in,
rework.
you gotta rework and spend more money than you would have at the beginning. So the idea is we just wanna make sure we do it right.
I have a question. So, in the meantime, are you gonna do any work about the baseball fields and the parking issues, and are you gonna, is the board going to address the issues that we already know about? That the
Board?
public already is,
Well, if the
needs
public-
done?
If the public submits those to us through the process that we recommended at our last two meetings, put them in writing, send them through the front office so they can get them to us, we certainly would entertain that, but I have no idea what parking issues you're discussing or, what issues you were talking about here. So if you could submit those in writing to the township office so they can bring them to our attention,
I
we certainly
thought-
would bring them up at a board
I
meeting.
thought Nick was working on, the surfaces of the playing fields were, those are issues that the park has now that need to be dealt with now, this year, this season.
I believe.
This has been brought up before,
I wasn't aware Nick was working on anything.
I didn't,
I don't think he really got started on anything.
we
No,
were,
he
we
said
were
he did.
talking about fees and things like that, but I don't remember him saying anything about any issues, so. We did, John and I did a walkthrough and we counted up the number of parking spaces and things like that, but that's, Lori, I would recommend putting it in writing, send it through the front office and let us get it on the agenda so we can discuss it. That would be my suggestion to you. Because we certainly welcome the public's comments. We mentioned that at our last two meetings. We'd like to have the public's comments on what you would like to see happen. And, if they come in through the front office, it is something that we can discuss. If there's something pressing that needs to be done that's not gonna affect an overall master plan, we certainly would wanna look at it and make suggestions to the supervisors. So, just get it into us. We're done.
If I may make a suggestion, you might consider reaching out to the users of the park. They may not even know that this board exists or that what the process is. They're not, it's the same 8 people to show up to all of these things. It's not, there's a huge community out there. You should probably know, right, that there's an issue with the ball fields. There's an issue with parking. We all drove through the parking issues. We drove in here today. These issues are the responsibility of the park board, whether those people show in here or not.
They are not the
It's not our
responsibility of the park.
responsibility.
We are an advisory
Advisory.
board, Renan.
We can
We
take
are
it back to
only
the
an advisory.
board.
Right, but you should make advice
but
about it.
they-
Then give us
Make the
something in
decision.
writing that we can discuss.
So that's,
and we will be
so again, you
happy.
responded to the wrong question. What I said is that it is your responsibility to understand those issues so you can address them, whether it's by making an executive decision or by advising the board. That's irrelevant. The issue is there are issues, and I recommended that you might reach out to the community to figure out what those are.
And
We
that's-
already
that's what
have
it's for.
contact with girls softball coach. We also already know the name people over here that's running this app. So we do have names and we do have contacts. Okay?
But if there are things that you would like to suggest, again, I recommend putting them in writing and getting them into the township office so we can deal with them.
What I'm hearing is a little bit of resistance to the idea that you should go out and figure out what the needs of the community are, but maybe I'm misreading it.
I think you are misreading
Okay.
it. I mean, we've been written up in the newsletter, and every resident got a copy of the newsletter. So there is a park and rec board that has been broadcast out to folks. Our meetings are publicized. So, you know, we're not gonna knock door to door. That's not our function.
It's not what I recommended. of
So,
course.
well,
That's
you're.
silly.
Yeah,
if-
it's a straw man,
That's
but
silly.
it's incredible.
So, Terry Lynn.
If I may, Terry Lynn Ross, Danner Drive. In my experience with submissions to the township on questions or inquiries or, when you don't know who should receive it, is to submit it through the township and then it will be redirected to whether it's the zoning or the planning commission. And then you'll be guided on those routes. If it is board of supervisors, you go that route. With the bylaw still in the works here, it's probably not written in that way, but it wouldn't come directly here for park stuff. It would still go through the front office and procedural issues of where it will be redirected to and then get on the agenda. If so, if it's for this, if it's for the park board.
Absolutely.
It could be for the planning commission. So it's just, or the zoning hearing board. So start with the office. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry Lynn.
So, that's the last thing I have. Any other comments, questions from the board?
When's our next meeting?
Believe, I looked on the calendar, I believe it's August 16th. I think that's third,
August 20th?
is that the third
That's the
Tuesday?
third
Okay, yeah, the week, okay, yep. So
Can I-
August 20th?
Say something before we go into adjournment or whatever.
Sure.
I think this committee has shown tonight that we're willing to be flexible and make things work by nominating 3 different people for the vacancy on the park board. We could have just rammed it through and voted on one person. So we have accommodated you.
Any other? Any further comments from the audience before we adjourn? As long as it's short.
Sure.
Short.
If you will allow it, I would like to note the incredible discrepancy between the amount of time given to your allies and friends in versus the amount of time, the aggression with which I was met before I even made my first comment. Leave it at that.
Okay. Then with that, I make a motion that we adjourn. Second. All in favor? Meeting is adjourned.